we're well into really look at the next phase of what our program looks like in summer ball. Of all the things that have happened rule wise, one that is, I think, very, very positive over the years is now you have the opportunity during this time of year that you can have position meetings. You can be on the field with your team for a certain amount of time in a walkthrough situation. So how important that is for us, this next phase really of 7 weeks on the work that we can get done in developing our team, getting ready for fall camp. So the strength gains that we'll make here in the weight room, speed and quickness and some togetherness. And you look at the roster spots that we've changed since probably the last time that we spoke. Really, the galvanizing of that group, that team. Fortunately, we can be hands-on here this summer as an assistant coaching group. I think there's a balance of the amount of volume in the weight room that plus the skills and drills that you do. There's a fine line that you've got to do enough to be able to get in football shape, but then you don't want to cross that line. So when fall camp starts, you're ready to go. So I think working with Coach Rowe and our assistant coaches, we've got a really good plan put together. Now we've got to go execute it, and we will here the next 7 weeks, and getting ready, for the fast approaching August 30th kickoff at 12 o'clock in Ross-Ade Stadium. How excited we are for that. I'm excited about the chance to put this team together, build on what we did from January until spring ball was over, and then the new pieces we added after spring practice, and now putting that group together to get ready for fall camp. One of the most enjoyable parts of the year for me, as you work to blend the new and the old together and come up with what this team's going to look like in 2025.
All right, thanks, Coach. Sam, you had your hand up first, so we'll go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, Barry, just from what I've read and trying to follow this, it seems like there's still kind of a lack of clarity on roster size. What has been your approach with the 105 versus the grandfathered in people who have started their eligibility? Are you trying to get more than 105? And then if you have to scale back, you do that? Because you've added a lot of pieces here.
Yeah, I think you look at, you're not the only one that still have questions. And we had, our Big Ten meetings, our commissioner did a tremendous job on giving us what he knew to that point. And that's what I'm trying to judge it on now, just the reality of what we know today. That could change later on today, tomorrow. I mean, at some point, we're going to get exactly what the roster can look like. Okay, we've got pieces of what we believe it's going to be. Our roster going into fall camp, we will carry more than 105. And then you look at guys that you had conversations with when we were told that it was just going to be 105. You can have those guys return and back. There's still a lot of gray area, in my opinion, on exactly what that number is going to be. The thing that we have done as a coaching staff and organization, we've looked at every possible situation scenario. Okay, if we can have a roster size of X, we want to carry as many kids as we can, because I believe in the value of playing college football. It helps with academic success. We're going to become a close team. It helps with practice structure. There's a number of benefits that we feel like the more guys we can have on our team, the better experience for being a college student athlete it will be. And if they come out and say, hey, it's 105, it's what it is, then we'll have to make adjustments and have those tough conversations at that time. I don't know if I answered your question, Sam. I tried. We're above 105 right now on our roster.
Right.
At some point, it has been my belief on all the information that we've gathered, at some point, we will have to have somewhat of an active roster of 105.
Do you currently have a 105 in place? And then beyond that, like a 120 or whatever it might be?
We do. And then you look at, okay, well, what's the ability if someone gets hurt? Can you replace it? It's a season-ending injury. Can you replace that with someone you've already had in your program that's been working out? There's still a lot of questions in that regard of what that'll look like.
Thanks.
Nathan, go ahead.
Hey, Barry, we haven't had a chance to talk to you yet since Ryan Brown came back. I was just curious from your perspective, how did that all play out, and why did you guys want to add him to this still very, I guess, up in the air quarterback situation?
Yeah, you look at number one when I got the job in December. I had that first team meeting. There weren't many guys in the room as a team. There were guys in the portal that already had indicated that they were leaving. Some had already left and or had gone and decided where they were going. I had an opportunity to have a conversation with Ryan, and he was already really out the door. But I think I at least gave him something to think about program direction, structure, coaching staff. Even though we didn't have a coordinator or quarterbacks coach hired at that time, I talked about philosophy wise, and I could tell he was torn a little bit in that decision. You'd have to ask him, exactly what he was feeling on that. But I wished him the best. I said I didn't want to lose him, and I said if things don't work out or you have a change of mind or heart, it's your new place, then we'll be here. And I tried to do that with all the guys that I had a chance to talk with that were already, quote unquote, out the door when I got the job. I think he had a really good spring at the place he transferred to. I think there's a number of things about being a student athlete at Purdue University that are exciting for a number of guys and college kids in general. Once we learned that he had entered the portal, there was a conversation about the same things I talked to him about in December, that there would be opportunity to compete. He had some clarity, obviously, then or now on who our coordinator was, who our, position coach was. I think the conversation piece on the people he still knew on the roster played in our favor on the structure of the program, on the way it was going. And then for us, a decision to make, I do feel like coming out of spring ball, if we were to go play, I like the development of the rooms, certainly on the position we left spring practice out. I also believe in the world of playing the way we're going to on offense. You better have 2 to 3 that you feel like you can win with. And when we knew that Ryan was interested in looking at another opportunity, I had seen enough tape on him from the last year. I really liked his genuine makeup of when I had the one conversation with him before he left. So we started recruiting him actively at that point and tried to get him into our program.
Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, the offensive line, you brought in a lot of people. Obviously, that was one of the more heavier hit positions. Kind of address the offensive line, especially your spring portal additions up front, what you were trying to accomplish there, and how you feel about the front going into the summer.
Yeah, Tom, and really look at to the point you can identify, recruit, and attract guys that are good enough projection in mind that they can win in your conference. I'm always going to oversign if we can, if they're good enough, offense and defensive linemen, always. Because if you can't run the ball and you can't protect the quarterback, you have no chance offensively to have any success. I believe that. Defensively, on the other hand, if you can't stop the run, you're not going to be a good defense. And in my belief, the quickest way to fix those areas are to have offense and defensive linemen that are talented enough to win and big enough physically to win in this conference. I've done it everywhere I've had a chance to build a roster, to try to get as many offensive defensive linemen that can play winning ball in on your team. Because you really, in my opinion, you better find 5 guys that you feel like are your starters. You better find number 5, 6, 7, and 8 that are going to play meaningful snaps. And if you don't have 3 centers then that you can win with, then it's going to be really hard. Because, I think a lot is lost in college football, at least, on if you don't have a really good center that can start the playoff, then a lot of plays can get wrecked. And we don't have time for get back on track plays because the center can't execute the snap and block the way that they need to. So a lot of that went into identifying players that we feel like can play at this level and win at this level. Also, from a depth standpoint, getting the right pieces in the right spots on the offensive defensive line. So we were really, really direct and select on going after those 2 positions after the spring window. And I was willing to do about anything we had to do from a roster space standpoint to try to get those spots right. We've got bodies now, and we feel like we've got in both sides of the ball. Now we've got to identify and number one, do a great job continuing to develop them, but then get them in position to play winning ball at a high level.
Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, Barry, you guys added two young linebackers that have some experience in Charles Correa and Sanders Ellis. Just what did you see from both of those guys on tape? What do you think they'll add to the room, and how important will that be for you?
Yeah, I think number one, the linebacker position on how we play defense, they're gonna be in a position opportunity wise they've got to make a lot of plays. That's just the way the defense is designed. And the last few years, one of our linebackers have always had over 120 tackles. We've been fortunate that the last few years we've had an All-American every year at that position, which is so important. And we need to continue the trend. And I looked at, again, the number of plays, not only on defense that position plays, but also special teams, how impactful that is. We needed some more depth there, and we needed some guys that we feel like could come in and day one be contributors. And fortunately, we're able to attract what I feel like in Sanders and Charles, 2 guys that fit what we need physically. They understand they've got the skill set to be able to go do it. And then now it's up to us. How great can we put them in position in our teaching methods on being ready to play that position in this defense? And I think we hit on 2 really good players.
Go back to Nathan.
Yeah, Barry, you made discipline kind of a cornerstone of an emphasis of what you were building here when you came in, as you have at other places. There's multiple players in this group who just had pretty recent public run-ins with the law. I guess, how do you, in this current climate, how do you vet those sort of players quickly enough? Because it's obviously a different relationship than when you have 2 or 3 years through conventional recruiting to build that relationship. And I guess, how were you sensitive at all to that, considering the discipline that you've been trying to establish here?
Always sensitive to it. I think you dive into anytime you're going to try to recruit a young man to your campus to make sure they're a fit in every single area. And if they're not, it doesn't matter how good of a player you think they are, then it'll never work. So I think of all the guys that we brought in, you look at their background, you look at the things they've done well, the things they have not done well. You do every bit of amount of research that you can do. Talk to as many people as you can as the previous institution or high school they're coming from. We go through and try to as thoroughly as possible get that information, make an educated decision on will he fit, does he like ball, can he succeed here academically, socially, and athletically. And then if the answer is yes, I believe that we've all made some mistakes, or certainly I know I have. I can't say that you guys have had or not. I think there's education pieces that I'm responsible for, speeding ticket and some of those things of nature that you've got to decide is, is the kid, number one, did he make a mistake? Okay, why did he make it? Has he learned from it? Are we willing enough to have him in our program because he was, issued a citation? And then you just make the decision on what that is. And, I'm not the only one making those decisions. There's a number of people that go into stamping yes or no. But we also feel like the structure, the culture, the surrounding people that we have that are part of our organization, that I think we're in a position that it becomes, the DNA of who we are on doing the right things and protecting the team and becoming great student athletes at Purdue.
Has your stance on that changed at all over the course of your career? And I guess maybe to follow up on something you were sort of, you got a second chance professionally, not for anything that, off the field sort of thing, but just from a football standpoint. Has that affected how you look at giving players a second chance?
I think you look, number one, just for me personally, you look at, you just find out, everybody, the guys that have transferred across the country, there's always reasons why. So what are the reasons? And you just dive into that. And again, it's relationship building. It's finding out what are the reasons? Are they a fit for what you're doing here? Do they like ball? Okay. The plan educationally here is different than a lot of places. Are they willing enough to do the work educationally to get a degree from one of the greatest public education systems in America? And if those things all align, then we know structurally, then they will thrive in our system.
Back to Tom.
I've made no mistakes, Barry. The levity there, sorry. Hey,
I've had to learn to drive in West Lafayette compared to Las Vegas. It's two separate speed limits.
yeah, 180s for sure there. By my math, and I was never good at math, but I got 55 portal editions between the winter and the spring. I know you alluded to this probably coming back in December. Were you surprised you hit this number, and how do you plan on just getting all these guys to mesh together and getting a cohesive team?
Yeah, it's I think your math, I think you're about right on. I knew that it would be a complete, at some positions, roster change and overhaul. Not new to the fact of what that is. We had 55 my first year, the last place, then we had 50 the next year. You look at the national trend of what that is. I can't compare us to anyone else. Just know what we needed to do to put together a team for 2025. And, we were very deliberate about that. I mentioned towards the end of spring practice that we would be very active in the next spring window, and we were. And I think, our coaching staff did a nice job of identifying players that thought that could come here and help us win, that fit what we were looking for. And, I think it's so important that we understand we signed a lot of high school guys in this year's class too. And next year's high school class, the 26th class, is going to be a lot bigger than this year's high school class. So I believe in the foundational approach that looks like. You'd like to get to the point where that number is not near as high. But then also, if you recruit a bunch of guys through the portal that you've got for 8 months, well, you're going to replace them with somebody after 8 months. So there's going to be a little bit of a cycle there on what that looks like as far as the total number. And then how do you build a team together? How do you take those 24 post-spring signees, blend them with the new guys, plus the high school guys, plus the returners? There's no book on that. It's about every single day, your actions, the leadership the embracing of the new, blending them together, finding a way, spending time together, and then ultimately understanding that we represent something so much bigger than ourselves, any individual in Purdue football, and finding a way by the time that we kick off on August 30th that we are as close of a team as you could possibly be.
Back to Sam.
Yeah, back to what I was saying earlier. Have you had previous conversations with some of your players already on the roster to tell them if it's 105, you're going to be in limbo here. Obviously, you want to be straight up and honest with them and give them a chance if they think it's better to leave or whatever it is. But is that something you established recently with players who are already here?
We have, and the hard part of that recruiting, the retention of your current roster. Okay, our number is whatever it is today, and then we may get to 105 the first week of game week. So we're going to ask you to, you're going to run and lift 5 days a week as hard as you can. And you're going to strain into doing that. And then you're going to go through fall camp. And then on Sunday of game week, we may have to sit down and have a conversation. And all you did in that time, thank you for your service, but now you're one of the 15 or whatever that number is that you've got to get down to 105. If you look back, and believe me, I don't want to, I wouldn't want to be in the seat of anyone that's making these decisions from the level of, the commissioners or the NCAA or whoever and whatever is going into that. I don't envy that at all, but the timing of it all for student athletes and programs, it's really, really difficult.
And then a two-part question is this: how have you had to adapt throughout the course of your career? And I guess mostly in recent years with NIL packages, and then like Nathan said earlier, making these relationships basically overnight in some cases to try to sell somebody on your program.
I mean, I do believe that we've changed more rule-wise in the last 2 years than we have in the last 25 combined. I mean, I believe that, but I also know that if you don't adjust and adapt, then you get left behind. And I can't say that I agree to everything that we're doing now in college football, but that's what the rules are. And if you don't adapt to that and find the best way to build your team, then you're not going to last very long. So I've had to, change some of my traditionalist thinking on what some of that looks like. And, it doesn't really matter what I believe in. They didn't ask me to write the rules. I've got to adjust to it. Someday, though, years and years and years from now, whenever I'm done coaching, I'm going to be on the rules committee, and I'm going to swing it back to a defensive game. I'm going to be maybe on the board of officiating, and wait till you see those rules. It'll be favorable for a number of people.
Tom, go ahead.
Eliminate instant replay. Take us back to 1985 if you can.
And TV timeouts.
TV timeouts.
I mean, I love the opportunity for all the things that need to happen and advertising and all that. But you said there, and you've made a couple coaching points during a game, and you're ready to go back to action. You look at the shot clock, and it's still at 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Like, what do you do during that time?
Yeah.
I mean, the players get tired of listening to you. You get tired of talking. You lose momentum. There's just so many of them. It's amazing. But that'll change.
I got to make small talk with Nathan and Dub, so it's tough for me too.
Tough crowd.
Hey, two guys, Nitro Tuggle, I think intrigues a lot of fans, and the big freshman from Kankakee, Illinois, Marquise Easley as well. Kind of talk about those two guys and maybe what they can mean to the program, near term and long term.
Why do you think Nitro intrigues some of the fans? Because of the name or
a name? I think the recruiting
the
status, the fact he's an in-state kid too, all those things. I think that whole package has fans intrigued as for his potential to be a difference maker on the edge.
Yeah, I think both of them were, they were highly recruited out of high school. I think geographically, a number of folks will know about them. You look at high school tape, then you compare with all the film that you could get from their previous place. And then, Tom, for me, I've seen them. Is today Wednesday or Thursday? Today's Thursday. I have seen them in the weight room now 4 days. So I've got a very small body of work compared to what I've seen with my own eyes in person to what I saw on tape. And I think both have an opportunity to be impact players for our team very early in their career as a Boilermaker. I think look at some of the things that Nitro's able to do, change the direction, start and stop. He does have good linear speed, and then Easley's really transformed his body. I would say in the last year, he's a tall, long, lean guy that's got good body mass and he's got exceptional feet. So, some of those physical attributes that we were, looking for in the portal transfer time, we hit on those two guys with what we've seen up to this point.
Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, Barry, you kind of touched on this with the high school recruiting, but as far as the portal goes, you guys also brought in quite a few younger guys. Is that an intentional decision to bring in younger guys along with the older guys that can come in right away, or does it just kind of happen like that?
Well, we've been very intentional about trying to get some balance in the roster from an age standpoint. And, we've got a number of guys that are in their last year as the rules are today. So if you look at all the guys that just have one season left, the replacing of that, plus if you attract a number of other guys that just have 1 year left, well, then next year you're doing the same thing. You're just cycling through one and done guys. So the foundation for us, yes, high school recruiting. If you can find a guy that's also transfer that's got multi-years left, we feel really strongly in the opportunity to develop guys in our program.
Nathan, go ahead.
Yeah, sort of following up on that a little bit, maybe. This 2026 recruiting class, you've become accustomed now to bringing in several dozen players every year in the portal, both UNLV and here. Do you think high school recruiting is still crucial as far as getting away from that cycle? Is that naive to look at it? Do you think it's always going to be dozens of players every year? And if it's the former, then I guess how critical do you see is this first 2026 class you're putting together?
No, I've said it a number of times that we are a strong believer in high school recruiting. And also at UNLV in 2 years, we signed 60, I don't remember the exact number, high school prospects as well. No, I'm sorry. I think the number is 56. Look at, I don't have it in front of me, the number of high school guys that we've signed since we've been here. There's still a really good balance. I think there's more a little bit of a, the word right now on the transfer portal and the market of what that looks like. We've got to be a really good identifying group of talent as a staff and recruiting department. And then now the window of, if the rules go in as it sounds like they're going to, signing dates the first Wednesday in December, we've only got a couple more weeks of actually seeing high school kids here in the month of June. July goes dead. August is dead. You can go see them on our 2 bye weeks during the season. So if our evaluation process hasn't been completed yet on a high school kid, then man, the window now gets shorter and shorter. I do believe, number one, we've got to continue to be very aggressive, and we were in spring on the number of high schools we got into. I was at a showcase camp last night in Chicago with 385 high school kids. We've had camps on campus here. We're going to have 4 more coming up. We've sent coaches to Dallas, to St. Louis, Detroit, Chicago, all in high school recruiting opportunities here in the last few days on trying to continuing to identify not only 26s, but 27s and 28s. And I saw a quarterback the other night that was really good, and he's a 2030. I was like, what? I mean, I don't even know what grade. I think you're in the seventh grade. So, I'm rambling here a little bit. We've got to do a great job on the balance of getting a high school class plus the portal needs that we feel like to compete and win a championship in this conference.
Back to Tom.
I know you probably don't like answering the questions, but injuries, kind of give us an update on George Burhan. I know
Yep.
you were optimistic if he could be ready in camp. Is there anybody else sort of in his boat that maybe his status for August is iffy, or he's not going to be available at all?
Yeah, George is making great progress. Timeline for him, I do believe that the first game is still, right on track for him being active. We had another repair done on a previous surgery on an incoming freshman, John Grimmett. He had a surgery on his foot in the month of December, and we had to go back in and do some corrective things on that. One of the limited guys at running back during spring practice, Malachi Thomas. He's looked great here the first 4 days of summer ball. Full activity. Right now, as the roster sits, I'm glancing through some names real quick. I think other than those two that I mentioned, George and John, if we started fall camp today, I think everybody would be cleared for full activity.
Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, just on, it's an overly philosophical question about coaching effort, but, you have 55 new guys. A lot of coaches say we don't have time to coach effort, but the world's changed. Obviously, it's changed for coaches in terms of just having all these new bodies. You've done this for the last several years, you're used to it, but what's your philosophy on that? And how do you tell your staff from a coaching effort standpoint? You just say, hey, we're not going to do that. That's expected, or is that something you say to the team from the front, from the get-go? How do you view that?
That's one of the core beliefs in our team bottom line. It's knowing your assignments, it's playing with energy and enthusiasm, playing tough and physical, and being a 6-second competitor. And if you do those 4 things, you're setting yourself up for success. Okay. If a guy won't play hard, he's not going to be on the field. That is a non-negotiable to me. Okay. If the guy's not playing, why is he not playing hard? Okay. Does he not know his assignment? Or is there, where is the breakdown? I won't stand for, we're not going to have guys that don't give tremendous effort and speed to the ball. And how do you play when you don't have the ball in your hands? The strain to finish from the time the ball snapped until the whistle blows. I've got a challenge to our team. Let's put on tape that we're the hardest playing football team in college football. And when you do that, that erases a lot of deficiencies. Do we have a long ways to go in that department? Absolutely. Will we get there? You daggum right we will.
Got time for a couple more. Sam, go ahead.
Barry, I apologize. This isn't about anything with the transfers or incoming recruits, but it's about Devin Mockabee and the value that a guy who came as a walk-on has been kind of the face of the program. When you're shifting over to a new staff and you want to get people excited, he's going to be the guy on the posters and things like that. How much value is there in a Devin Mockabee, just a guy that fans can relate to, that they want to go see, and he's personable and seems to be a very down-to-earth, genuine type guy that people can just kind of relate to?
Yeah, I'm thankful for him, along with a number of other guys that chose to stay, and they something in their heart or soul made them stay with us. And I will forever, as long as I've got an opportunity to be in coaching or afterwards, I'll look at, and those guys will be circled in my mind on giving me an opportunity to be their coach. So it means a lot to me that he decided to stay, and I know certainly he had opportunities to go a lot of different places, and he decided to stay here. That means a lot to me. We can win with guys like Maccabee, and we can win with guys like Ethan Trent. We can win with Tanonas. We can win with those guys because of what they care, their passion. They care about this place. Their work ethic is off the charts. They set the example in a lot of ways when there wasn't an example, and that holds great value in my mind and our coaching staff's philosophy on how we've built this thing.
Tom, go ahead.
Coach, I guess for lack of a better term, were you pleased with the resources that you had available to build this portal roster? Can Purdue continue to be competitive in the future? And what do you have any idea what the future is for the Boilermaker Alliance, the NIL collective that's separate from the university? And maybe what its role is going to be moving forward.
Ecstatic would be a descriptive word on how I felt about what Mike Babinski talked to me about in the interview process, and what proved to be true. It was exactly what he told me it was going to be, and it was very aggressive. Purdue is not going to take a backseat to anyone when it comes to that in the revenue share with the peers in our conference. And if you look at the Big Ten, is setting the standard in college football on what that looks like, and we're going to be as competitive as anyone in that department. In relation to the Boilermaker Alliance, I am not in a position to have comments on what I think that is going to look like. I really don't know. I know there's going to be a number of things that will look, when rev share takes over completely, whenever we think that's going to happen. I'm sure it will look a little bit different, but I wouldn't know what that's going to entail. A lot of it will be dictated about what the rules say once the judge comes out with the ruling on rev share, and then all the different things now that have to be in alignment on what that looks like. I know this, guys. I've had a chance of year 26 for me, I think, in coaching, and I couldn't ask for a better leader than what in 6 months what Mike Babinski has done. He's been tremendous, locked arms every step of the way. What do we need to do to get Purdue football back? And then in those conversations, he's made every single thing happen.
Any more questions for Coach? All right, Coach, thank you. Thanks.
Oh, yeah, sorry, can I just begin one more?
Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about Ryan Brown earlier. You mentioned the film you'd watched. I guess just what had you seen on film that impressed you about him, and were there things that you saw that had been lacking with the other guys that you watched in the spring?
No, I think Ryan, to me, showed competitive spirit and the opportunities he had last year. I think he has, you just look at arm release, ability to make most throws, athletic ability. Appeared to me on film that he had some toughness. All of those things, qualities that you look at that position, how important they are. I think he's got a huge future and a big upside. Everybody in the program can improve and get better, and certainly he can. The other quarterbacks that we have all showed really good progress through spring ball. I don't think that I would sit there and say, hey, Garrett Odom is lacking in this area. That's why we brought in Ryan Brown. I look at just for the health of the roster and the chance, if we need to play and get in a position, we got to have a guy at that position that can play winning ball. And And we feel like through summer ball, fall camp, that we'll have a number of quarterbacks ready to go. Whoever's number called, be ready to go play winning football for us at that spot.